Hi, my name is Mark Anderson, and I'll be your instructor for the Aspire Teacher Residency class in literacy development for the content areas for secondary teachers. And this will be a 6-unit class over the next 3 months. And I wanted to give a brief overview of the context of this class and where we're going to be going, some of the key themes and ideas that we'll be studying when we look at literacy development. So first of all, the context of studying this course. So especially in the secondary level, when people talk about literacy, people have been talking about literacy across the curriculum or literacy in the disciplines. People have been talking about that for a long time and have valued its importance for a while. But you're studying this course at a time where it's really kind of on the, I guess, the hot seat or the forefront of education conversations because of the transition from state standards to the Common Core. And one of the key shifts in Common Core standards is the emphasis that literacy standards are taught not just in the English language arts classes, but also within the science, social studies, and to some degree the math classes as well. And so this is a conversation that's really big in the educational community, and in this course you'll definitely be taking part in that, and it's something that in the 11th edition of the VACA textbook that we're looking at that they also emphasize. So that being kind of the background of this conversation and this look at how to incorporate literacy, the key components of this class that we'll focus on are, first of all, a reading culture in your classroom. So reading is a social process for us as adults and definitely for your students. And so reading development is highly dependent on students' motivation and their confidence. And so at the beginning of a year, giving some thought to how are you going to emphasize, how are you going to build a positive culture around reading is a really important thing for you to do as a teacher. We'll spend a couple weeks looking at that. We'll then move into the pillars of literacy, and these are elements of, they're called the 5 pillars of literacy instruction. And so these are elements that students, beginning before they even reach kindergarten, start to learn in terms of reading. And so those 5 key components we'll look at are phonemic awareness, students' awareness of different sounds, and the starting to understand that some of those sounds are associated with print. And then we'll move into phonics instruction. We'll look at fluency, and so students' ability to decode, to read at a normal rate or a fast enough rate that they can comprehend, and their expression. And we'll then look at comprehension, students' ability to understand a text, and finally we'll take a look at vocabulary acquisition. And often secondary teachers are most focused on comprehension and vocabulary acquisition, but for a literacy class, we're going to be taking a look also at those other 3 components to see how those play a part in a student's ability to understand and their ability to acquire new words. After we've looked at those 5 pillars, we're then going to take a couple weeks looking at assessment, and you will, as the other video mentioned, do a project in which you assess in detail different components of one of your students' literacy abilities. And then based on that, we're going to look at differentiation. So when you have a student who is reading below grade level or having difficulty accessing text in your class, what are some ways that you can provide that students with some instruction that's going to get them, allow them to be able to access the material you're teaching and the text that you're teaching. After that, we'll talk about course design. How do you look at the texts that are involved in your course? How do you look at the vocabulary? And overall, well, how do you look at the literacy demands of the content you're trying to teach? And from there, looking at those literacy demands, plan out what strategies do you need to teach your students so that they're successful when they access the text in your class. And so more and more people are talking about when you teach in the content area, you're not just responsible for teaching your content, but also how to be literate within that content, how giving students and empowering them with the ability to read within that content area so that they can build their core of knowledge on their own, as well as with your instruction. And after that, we're going to take a look at, we'll finish by taking a look at writing. And so thinking about writing from three ways. First of all, that writing is this meaning-making process, and so using writing in your class is a great way for students to better extend their comprehension of key concepts that you're trying to teach. We'll also look at feedback. One of the major ways that high school teachers kind of shy away from writing instruction in their class is thinking about the paper load and how do you respond to students writing. So we'll talk about some ways that you can provide effective feedback for your students in your classroom. And then finally, looking at your specific discipline or specific content area and looking at what are some of the specific writing conventions that are in your own content area. So that's an overview of what our course is going to look at. The other video I'm posting this week details some of the assignments and some ways to make sure that you're navigating Sakai in a way that you're able to find everything on Sakai. Okay, well, I look forward to interacting with you on Sakai and hearing from you and looking at your work, hearing about all the literacy work you're doing in your classrooms. Have a great week. Bye.